Step beyond the veil and into the unseen, where intuition deepens, energy flows, divine and spiritual guidance is received, and your inner wisdom unfolds. Whether you're beginning your journey or expanding your gifts, this podcast offers grounded guidance to trust your intuition and live in alignment with your soul. I'm Mariana, holding space for you to remember who you truly are, an infinite star.
Hi everyone, welcome to the very first episode of the Infinite Star podcast. My name is Mariana. I am an intuitive psychic and a Reiki practitioner, and I am super excited to welcome you to the very first of many podcasts to come. I wanted to create this very first podcast and tell you how I got here. Eventually, I love to tell my story. We will have many episodes to come, I hope. But I wanted to dedicate this first podcast, to explaining how I got here and what the intention is. And perhaps it will evolve into something else. But let's start with that. Super excited. I think anybody who starts a podcast knows how hard it is to put all the components together, but here I am, and when spirit calls, you listen, because it will speak from many different perspectives and in many ways. And I feel that the more we resist in doing something that where we're supposed to be, the harder and the louder the messages get to us. And so this is proof of that. When I will share my story about my psychic abilities, but I wanted to focus this episode as to how I got here. Since I came out, quote unquote, as psychic and owned it, and I say this with, being careful and not sounding like I'm special, because I think everyone is psychic. We are born with psychic abilities, and it is innate to human being. And I'm not special. Everyone is intuitive. Everyone is psychic. Everyone is a medium. It's just a matter of being more intentional and perhaps even, with practice, dedicated to helping others. And that's what I did. And that's what I mean when I say I'm psychic. But again, these are abilities that everyone has. And my goal here as well is to help you get to discover what your abilities are, and because they're so unique, our abilities, and that's fascinating to see and to hear the more people that I meet that identify themselves as practicing psychic abilities actively. But yeah, since I came out, which was about 4 years ago, and I take this term of coming out with lots of respect for those who have, some sort of hidden identity. That was the case for me. And I think mainly it was also not knowing what was happening until, you speak to other people and then you compare stories and you're like, oh, this is it, right? So about 4 or 5 years ago, Spirit just started speaking really loud. And since then, when I couldn't deny what was happening, and I have already been in the process of evolution to a much greater extent, where I was really paying attention to psychic visions, etc., I decided to create a platform. I'll create different platforms to share these experiences, but most importantly, the information that I was receiving, right? Through readings, through downloads, through conversations with my guides, through many exchanges and experiences that, with friends, with family, at a personal level, at a professional level. I felt that I had more and more to say. And I started sharing things and stories on social media. And I got to a point where all of these stories have, they're very short, and you have to keep it short because of social media, and just long videos may or may not, who knows? I just felt that I connected with my audience, or the audience that follows me, more effectively if I did, or when I do videos, short videos. And so it somehow felt inadequate at one point. I was like, okay, yeah, these are great, and I will continue to do those. But it felt that I needed a different platform to share all of these experiences and all these learnings, downloads of important information. And I think, if I didn't say this before, we all learn at our level of awareness and our spiritual emotional, right, personal growth is at the level of our awareness. So obviously all of the things that I'm going to say and that I share are at the level, on my level of awareness, and hopefully resonates with some of you. But I felt that these, this social media platform was falling short. And so I started, experimenting. Okay, well, let me start talking to, maybe it's creating a circle of practitioners. And so I started creating and knocking on doors, right? Like, okay, let's get together. Let's get, practitioners to talk about experiences and what are you living? What are you thinking, etc. And I tried, gosh, Spirit knows I tried to make a group happen, to, never mind a group, just synchronize life to make that happen. And it didn't matter how hard I tried. It just didn't happen. It didn't work out. And so I started knocking on different doors, like, okay, let's try to do this group. Okay, let's try to, do public events and do, sharing or practicing. And, after I think about maybe it was 3-4 different ideas and things wouldn't get off the ground. Finally, I just, started. In fact, I heard podcasts very early on and I just was ignoring it if I was to be honest with myself. And I just kept trying. And I kept saying to myself, oh, there's so many people with a podcast. It's yet another podcast. What do I have to say, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just dismissed it. And every time I tried to create a circle or to do something with people, the podcast idea kept coming back. And, Spirit has a really patient way to allow you to get there. I just kept saying no, but no. And I just kept putting all these, really resisting things, something that was really coming through strongly for me. And then finally, about a year ago, I took on this new position, which I'll definitely be talking about, the intersection of spirituality and professional, especially for community leaders, because I think that's really important. And we need more spirituality in the workplace. Careful, I didn't say religion. That's very different. But anyway, so I am, I get to this point where I'm like, okay, fine, it's a podcast. And I actually, in these conversations where I'm like resisting with myself, really, that's what it comes down to. I said, okay, what would I say if somebody came to me and said, hey, I'm looking and I'm thinking about opening a podcast. What would I say to this person? And so I'm talking to myself as if I was giving advice to someone else. And surprisingly, I ended up encouraging myself and reaffirming that I needed to open a podcast, so start a podcast, because, I would say things like, well, there's, too many people recording podcasts, so many voices out there already. And my thing, it's always saying, there's an infinite, hence my name, like the name of my whole initiative. There's an infinite number of venues and messages, and that it's, there's no scarcity. This is just another opportunity for people to hear and to resonate with a message. It's not about like, there's only space on earth for 10 podcasts, right? Like, no, the more, the merrier. And that's always something I've said. And then I had to remind myself of these learnings. And as I was giving myself advice, I ended up like confirming, like, yeah, I should be starting a podcast. It's a space where I can really share these, develop a little bit more, not just social media and those shorts. I could really develop an idea. I can invite more people, right? That was another thing, like, oh my goodness, who am I going to invite? There's so many people. But then again, it's like, this is an infinite amount of possibilities. Why limit yourself? And if you end up talking and just sharing your experiences and everything you're learning, that's the whole point. That is exactly the whole point. So I finally gave in and I said, okay, universe, help me. And when you're knocking on the right door, things start opening. So little that I knew, about a year ago when I took this new job, in one of the staff meetings, we used to have a radio, like the organization used to have a radio program. And they kind of discontinue it. And as I took over, my staff were like, well, we should start the radio program, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, yes, definitely, let's do that. And as we were having this conversation, they were like, well, we also need to have a podcast because everyone has a podcast. And here I am, like, with the same argument, right? I didn't connect the dots, but I was like, why? What am I going to say? 40 minutes, an hour, etc. Well, we do it because, of course, we have to. Let's try. And it turns out the podcast is doing amazingly, connecting with amazing people, sharing amazing messages, great messages, an opportunity to go deeper and dive deeper into conversations, introducing people to community leaders, to stories, etc. So I was like, and then I realized, yes, it takes time and it takes effort, but look, like all these amazing things that are happening. And so I almost demonstrated myself that it was possible if you wanted to. And if you wanted to, the things and the universe will deliver, right? And so that's how it started. I was like, okay, well, I can do this at work. Let's just mimic everything I do at work and just translating it to my personal endeavor. And this is how I got here. So finally, I was like, okay, let's just even buy the same equipment, do the same thing, download the same process, and let's get started. And as I kind of, open myself to the possibility of having this platform and sharing more ideas and have the opportunity to share with you a different perspective, right? Or maybe it is a similar perspective, but with a spin or I don't know, another idea, etc. And that's the beauty of this world. It's the infinite possibilities, the infinite amount of voices and perspectives. And here's yet another one that I hope will resonate with you with all the stories that I share, etc. And with this, I want to share really that sometimes we really are, the barriers that we see are placed, by ourselves. And when we fight against what's ours, things just become more difficult, right? And this is when we see friction, and this is where we see doors closing, because while other options are available, the one that's for you, you'll know it. There's that little voice. There's that, the path just opens and things just fall into place, like imagine a puzzle, throwing a bunch of pieces up in the air of a puzzle, and they come, as they fall through, or they fall really at the right place, exactly as they're supposed to. That's exactly what it feels like when you finally stop resisting and just really going with the flow. And this is a reminder of that, right? Like, this is, to me at least, and hopefully this resonates with you, to not resist, right? Like, if you're hearing that little voice, this is an idea, go here, try it, because most likely you're going to open a door with infinite possibilities. So this is that, when the universe guides you, when you're ready to listen, and don't dismiss these little messages, and don't dismiss these ideas, because it really really can take you to not just your growth in many different ways, but also meeting amazing people and learning a lot of things. So this is it. This is the first episode, is just telling you a little story about how I got here. And really, I didn't want to limit it. I feel that this is a place where I'm going to share those downloads, what I learned from, perhaps my readings, what I learned about certain topics, my perspective, and that I will guarantee that will change, because as I evolve in my spiritual growth, my perspectives change, right? Like, I made a video, for example, on manifesting, and the more that I grow, the different perspectives that I see, and I will share those. So warning, I may say one thing and then it'll expand a few episodes later. But I think that's the goal. And I hope this serves as as a reminder to encourage yourself, to push yourself, to not resist, and take the courage, right? Like, have the courage to follow that path that you feel it's calling, that your intuition, your inner voice it's kind of calling you. And that, believe that it's happening, that is possible. And most importantly, don't try to swim upstream, because that's just makes life much easier, or rather much harder. But yeah, I think this is a space of, or it will be a space, or it is a space for sharing learnings, evolution, spiritual evolution, ideas, perspectives. I'm definitely going to plan on, or I'm planning on inviting different people so you get to hear from different voices in addition to just mine. But I think it's that. I think hopefully the stories and the messages resonate with you in the way that they resonate with me, and hopefully you take something with you from these. So it'll be just that. It's an extension, another perspective of the different things that I learn, of the different things that I see, and hopefully of the beautiful people that I come across. And also, yes, I think the challenges and difficult people come to your life for a very good reason, reflecting something either, a wound that hasn't healed within yourself, a trigger, right? Like it's an indication of something that we need to work. So we have to be thankful for the difficult situations, because I do believe every single thing in life, it's to your benefit. It really is for you to grow, for you to see, for you to move on. And if you've ever felt in life that, oh my God, I'm seeing this again and again, and I am crossing the same type of people, etc., it's because we could just continue in that loop of, right, not of lack of healing. And the minute that we do and we change that frequency, or we're able to change that frequency, things change immediately. So anyway, we'll talk more about many different topics. But yeah, the goal here is to invite you to, holding space to share these thoughts, to hear from all these voices, to hear these different perspectives. And I am extremely open to hearing what you have to say. And if you have ideas of something you like to discuss, I'd love to hear that. So that's it. I'd love to, not talk too much on this time, because there'll be plenty of time to do that. And I will make the next episode a story about how I got here. What got me to say, or confirm my abilities as psychic, and how I arrived there, and how my path to choosing helping others through these abilities, and to choosing to practice, right? Because I think, as I mentioned, we're all psychic, and it's like playing piano, right? Like we all enjoy music, we can all listen to music, we can all study piano, but some of us perhaps practice really hard to be better pianists at, in life. So there you have it. Thank you so much for listening to the very first episode. If you stuck all the way here, yes. And if not, I will see you at another episode where I know, I am confident something will be said that may be of your interest. So thank you so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you and hearing you at episode number 2. Bye, everyone.